So welcome to my SimCity. This is another 10 minutes with, this time with everyone's favorite game of the moment, SimCity by Maxis and servers by EA. Major problem with the game so far, but despite the difficulty I had logging in, there's definitely a working system right now. It's not particularly fast, but you can see I've built up quite the city. So this is my city I've got developing. It's doing primarily electronics, so you'll notice all the industry, high-tech looking buildings, and let's scoot around. I got some basic things that I need to maintain before we go any further. The destruction here is usually around finding abandoned buildings. In this case, let's see here. It doesn't really list this building, so here's one of those glitches showing up. It says 0 abandoned buildings. Usually it'll say it, the number that are abandoned in the city. I think there's only this one, and they look grayed out, so they're easy to find. But it gives you the abandoned building and a cause of why they abandoned it, and then it's a simple click and destroy. Now, because my city's pretty far along, almost immediately the plots that are left in the wake of that city, or in the wake of that building, will be filled in. Although the simulation is on its slowest speed, so let me crank it up. Boom! Already got a new business in there, so I didn't even need that business. Forget that business. I finally upgraded myself all the way up to nuclear power. Oop! Forgot I was still on the bulldoze tool. That would have been bad. You'll notice that, like everyone said, that there's no need to connect with electrical lines, and any street attached has power and water lines and sewage and all that jazz. So this nuclear power plant just dropped down on a road, and it's enough to power the city. In fact, you can pull up the power map, and you can see everything's getting power right now because it's yellow. Similar map for water if you want blue. And all these come up contextually as you click around through the different menus. But it's, I don't know, they're very satisfying effects, and this is sort of the stuff that they fixed in SimCity that I think counteracts the stuff that they've sort of neglected. Or really just the problem with the regions and the whole online being an unmitigated disaster. So here, let's actually take a look at the region I'm playing in. So this region is populated by a couple of people who are other podcasters, Player One Podcast forum members, and everyone's doing okay. I can take a look at the other cities. Here's the other biggest city. It's being run by Mr. Pete Dodd, so let's take a look at that while the music swells. Actually, if I had a complaint about this game, it's that the music does occasionally get incredibly loud, and it's overbearing, but you can just turn the sound down. But it's kind of frustrating because I got to manage, oh, now it's too quiet and now it's too loud. Just some sound balance issues. And they basically show you the same thing every time with this petting goats, this or that. And actually, things are running really slow for loading. Like I said, this is taking longer than normal. Okay, normal's a weird thing to say. This is taking longer than it did 2 or 3 days ago. Which is sad, because I kind of thought the servers were supposed to be improving, but it's a work in progress. All of us have sort of taken to building a city and then a second city. Sometimes when we screw up, or in my case, I actually built a second city just to supply water. You can see in my other city it's running out. So I'm going to use the second city as a mule to funnel water into my main city, which is kind of my chief complaint with the system, that I have to do that. As you can see, this is the extent of the plot that you'll ever get. It's a pretty tiny square, and if you are not super efficient, you have a hard time placing things. The other thing you'll notice is that buildings like the sewage treatment plant and some of the other bigger buildings that you place down by yourself, like this garbage dump, they take up space and you expand them, and you never know how much you're going to need to expand them for your city. So, I think Pete's done a smart idea here, placing one road off by its lonesome, allowing him to place his power plants and everything just along the road and give himself a little space. The only problem is you can't expand. So he's making some mistakes, but I guess mistake is a weird way to put it, because some things are just style, however you want to play. There's no right or wrong way to play a sim game, but this is wrong. This is just really bad. Sorta. You see all sorts of fantastic posts coming across this little tiny wall, which has nothing on it because the chat's barely working. But that's where everyone would chat in the region, if they could. We can pop back out to my city and suffer through another loading. I won't pop out to go look at my other city just because I don't want to go through yet another load. Still herding those llamas. That would be nice if they would do that. Alright, so things that I like about SimCity while we're waiting, since this is something I don't... Oh good, that's necessary. Things that I like about it, I feel like I don't need to be as in the charts in the background, managing where the taxes are and where all the money's going. They've sort of simplified that. Oh, we started out in space there. So things like looking at my budget, I've got, once you upgrade, you actually get the ability to break down things into the three poor, medium wealth, and high wealth. But really, you can see the way I've been running my city is that we run a pretty large deficit, 5,000 per hour, and that's ticking over here in this right or bottom left corner. You can see it's ticking the minutes, so the time doesn't pass as fast as it did in SimCities of yore. I played 2K and 3, so it's not quite the same. It seems more granular and up close, and everything also seems sort of like more like play school, if that's a descriptor that makes any sense to anyone. Things seem kind of I don't know, they even give you that effect when you zoom in. Things seem kind of like little tinker toys, which I don't think it's a negative, but it does make it feel less like a hardcore game and more friendly, kind of like the other Sims stuff. So let's back out. Oh, here's one of the things that I do really like. Over in this corner, I sort of hogged out a space for my university, which currently is researching Space Center. But once I get enough students, I'll be able to add more schools to this. I already added a School of Engineering and the School of Science. Obviously, I'm a science and engineering man myself. Some extra dormitories. And I could add, right now, School of Business, School of Law, or School of Medicine. I haven't decided which way I want to go. But you can see whenever I touch anything in education, it gives you a sort of 10,000-foot view of the statistic for whatever you're looking at, so I can see what my education level is at. And this is kind of important because when I look at that education level, and I go over to any of the industry, you can see some of them will say business is good. When you dig in on them, they tell you what kind of education they require, what density they require, and what tech level they require. So they give you some good information, and then it's important to note if you wanted to use a power plant, you have to have the correct education level if you're going to use nuclear, like I am, and if they're not highly educated, then the whole area will start leaking radiation. So if you pull up the radiation map, you'll see that my city is clean. It's got a clean bill of health, which is good, because I would not want to deal with that. And you can actually layer on the wind map if you wanted to see. I've placed all of my industry downwind in order to keep it from polluting the residential areas. You can actually see the breakdown if I pop open that and turn off the wind map. See, everything that's green is residential, and everything that is yellow is industrial, and blue is, I think they call it commercial. Same as the old games. One thing that's kind of cool is they've added in the sort of tech trees that you need to climb. So I've got the electronics HQ here, and I would like to add on a consumer electronics division, but I need to upgrade it first. And in order to upgrade it, I've got to get $1.5 million daily electronics profit. So I'm probably going to have to add another processor plant, which is actually something that you add in the specialization menu, which I didn't know about for the longest time. This will let you go into mining, or let you go into oil. So for me, I'm placing down that electronics HQ and processor factories. What I've got right now is just one processor factory that's utilizing all of the alloy and plastics that's being reclaimed by my recycling center. And this kind of stuff's the cool interaction that I really like about SimCity. I'm managing that along with my trade depot, which I can manage whether I'm using alloy locally or importing it in case I need more alloy, which I do. I think I need way more alloy. It also will let me go in here and say, I am full up on processors. Oh good, I'm exporting them. And I don't need a lot of metal, so I'm exporting the metal. And you can, if you look at, well, there's a truck coming in, geez. If you look at my budget, you'll see I'm running 5,000 negative every hour, but every month I'm getting still $200,000 profit. So you can see I'm getting pinged for being out of alloy. So I've got my trade depot shipping stuff in, I've got my trade port shipping stuff in, and obviously selling things. So I'm sort of putting together a city that's working well together to try and push this project that I've got going to get the space shuttle, and then that project will eventually get placed in one of these great work spots, which I don't think we've got any going in the city yet, but it looks like this one can have 4 great works, all of which benefit everyone in the region. So I'm looking forward to getting one of those started. So I'm going to get back to managing my city. I think the next big thing that I want to do is get the pro stadium, because I feel like my city should have a football team, because I'm a football kind of guy. So thanks for watching, and oh lord, this thing is huge, and I'm gonna have to destroy so many homes in order to place this in the city. Is it worth it? We shall find out, and I will let you guys know on the podcast. So as always, if you have any comments, feel free to drop them on the video or on the message boards. Thanks for listening.